you could imagine that the training regime becomes much more parallelizable, where it's like most of the compute for training is used to come up with synthetic data or do some kind of search, and that can happen across a wide area.
You have synthetic data, you have like the search stuff, you have like you have all these post-training techniques, you have all this, all this ways to soak up flops, or you just figure out how to train across multiple data centers, which I think they have. At least Microsoft and OpenAI have figured. OpenAI.
What makes you think they figured it out?
Their actions. So Microsoft has signed deals north of $10 billion with fiber companies to connect their data centers together. There are some permits already filed to show people are digging, between certain data centers. So we think with fairly high accuracy, we can say we think that there's 5 data centers, massive, not just 5 data centers, sorry, 5 like regions that they're connecting together, which comprises of many data centers, right?
What will be the total power usage of the?
Depends on the time, but easily north of a gigawatt, right?
Which is like close to 1 million GPUs.
Each GPU is getting more power, higher power consumption too, right? Like it's like, the rule of thumb is like GPU, H100 is like 700 watts, but then like total power per GPU all in is like 1200, 1300 watts, 1400 watts. But next generation NVIDIA GPUs are, it's 1200 watts for the GPU, but then it actually ends up being like 2000 watts all in, right? Like, so there's a little bit of scaling of power per GPU, but like you already have 100K cluster, right? OpenAI in Arizona, XAI in Memphis, and many others already building 100K clusters of H100s. You have multiple, at least 5, I believe, GB200, 100K clusters being built by Microsoft / OpenAI / their partners for them. And then potentially even more, 500K GB200s, right, is a gigawatt. Right. And that's like online next year. Right. And like the year after that, if you aggregate all the data center sites and like how much power, and you only look at net adds since 2022 instead of like the total capacity at each data center, then you're still like north of multi-gigawatt. Right. So they're spending $10+ billion on these fiber deals with a few fiber companies, Lumen, Zayo, like, a couple other companies. And then they've got all these data centers that they're clearly building 100K clusters on, right? Like old crypto mining site with CoreWeave in Texas, or like this Oracle Crusoe in Texas, and then like in Wisconsin and Arizona and a couple other places. There's a lot of data centers being built up, and providers, right? QTS and Cooper, and like, you go down the list. There's like so many different providers, and self-build, right? Data centers I'm building myself.
So
gigawatts. Yes.
Let's just like give the number on like, okay, 2025, Elon's cluster is going to be the big, like, it doesn't matter who it is.
So then there's a definition game, right? Like Elon claims he has the largest cluster at 100K GPUs because they're all fully connected.
Rather than who it is, like, I just want to know, like, how many, like, I don't know if it's better to denominate in
100,000 GPUs this year.
Okay.
Right?
For the biggest cluster.
For the biggest cluster.
Next year,
300 to 500,000, depending on whether it's one site or many, right? Yeah. 300 to like 700,000, I think is the upper bound of that. But anyways, like, it's about like when they tier it on, when they can connect them, when the fibers connect it together. Anyways, 300 to like 500,000, let's say, but those GPUs are 2 to 3x faster, right? Versus the 100K cluster. So on an H100 equivalent basis, you're at 1 million chips next year.
But in one cluster.
By the end of the year, yes. No. Well, so one cluster is like
but you know what I mean.
The wishy-washy definition, right? Yeah. Multi-site, right? Can you do multi-site? What's the efficiency loss when you go multi-site? Is it possible at all? I truly believe so. What is it? What's the efficiency loss is the question, right?
Okay, would it be like 20% loss, 50% loss?
Great question. This is where like, this is where you need like the secrets, right? Of like, and Anthropic's got similar plans with Amazon, and you go down the list, right? Like people.
And then the year after that.
The year after that is where
this is 2026.
2026, there is a single gigawatt site, and that's just part of the like multiple sites, right? For Microsoft,
the Microsoft 5 gigawatt thing happens in 1
gigawatt, one site in 2026. But then you have a number of others. You have 5 different locations, each with some with multiple sites, some with single site. You're easily north of 2-3 gigawatts. And then the question is, can you start using the old chips with the new chips? And like the scaling, I think, is like you're going to continue to see flop scaling like much faster than people expect. I think as long as the money pours in, right? Like that's the other thing is like there's no fucking way you can pay for the scale of clusters that are being planned to be built next year for OpenAI unless they raise like $50 to $100 billion, which I think they will raise that like end of this year, early next year.
50 to 100 billion?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my god.
This is like, you know, like Sam has a superpower, no? Like it's like recruiting and like raising money. That's like what he's like a god at.